queen to tell her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Here, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people.
Woo! Welcome! Hey, Lisa,
it never gets old! It never gets old!
We need to make a Liberty Lounge intro, I think is what we need to do.
Oh, okay, but we still gotta be peasants.
Of course, we're always peasants.
We're always peasants.
Can't never stop you. It's our birthright.
Oh my goodness, there's so much going on!
I know, right?
Oh my God!
It's been a busy week.
It's been a busy week. What are we going to talk about? What is up with you?
Gosh, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Dang, I gotta post this link in the community, our 1776 Live community. This meeting, this time is unique, even though it's open to all of you, anyone who comes. But it is a weekly gathering of you and I, and anyone who wants to come on live with us. And everybody's a little bit scared, but it's so much fun.
Honestly, we had Peter. We had a couple people, or we had Peter. That was fun.
Yeah, and okay. So I did put the Liberty Lounge. You know what I did in the platform? I put to Peasants Perspective. So if it's live in Peasants Perspective, people will figure it out, and I'm not going to change it over there. And you put it in the chat right here, so that's perfect.
Yeah, I'll put it again.
Keith messaged me. He's like, "Where's the link?" And I said, "I don't know, maybe daylight savings." Okay, daylight savings. Why don't we just stay on daylight savings? Like pick one.
I can even feature the link. There you go, guys. If you guys want to join, there's the link. So if you're not on Rumble and you can't see the chats, so some our YouTube and our X listeners, there's a couple of you guys out there today. There's the link if you want to use it.
Are we live on X too?
Mm-hmm.
I've never been live on X.
Oh my goodness. Should we go live on Facebook too? I can toggle Facebook on.
I hate Facebook. Sorry, am I allowed to say that?
Facebook was mean to me. They were not nice to me. So yeah, I have no love lost for Facebook at all.
I don't like Facebook. I like X now that Elon has taken it over. I used to think Elon, I did not, well, first I wasn't sure. Then I thought he was into the transhuman thing. And then he walked into Twitter with the sink.
The kitchen sink.
And I was like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
And then he started talking about AI, and I know we love Grok, and how it has to seek truth, and that will encompass humanity or the human spirit. I can see you're already rustling with that. But I liked it because I don't like the AI without us.
He's on Team Human.
Yes.
He definitely, in fact, all of his transhumanism is because he feels like humans shouldn't be left behind. Now you can debate that, the legitimacy of that all you want, but I think his intentions are good. Now, sometimes the path to hell is paved by good intentions, so we just got to live through it, I guess.
Well, but what he's experienced with his son, Reason 411, I like that. Reason 411. Hello. What I like, I mean, it's gut wrenching what he's gone through with one of his sons, the woke mind virus, going into this transgender thing. But that's a term that has stuck with me, the woke mind virus.
Yeah.
I think that it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And those of us who have lived before it and it wasn't part of our culture, we see it.
Well, I mean, Michael Savage used to always say liberalism was a mental disease, was a mental illness, right? In fact, I saw a psychiatrist that posted that 90% of his patients that he deals with that can't resolve their issues are liberal. and he says he thinks that they just have, like, they're short circuiting. Whereas some of his patients, he deals with a childhood trauma and they can resolve it and deal with it. But the ones that just can't ever, get out. And it's the same thing in Atlas Shrugged. When you're self cannibalizing and you can't identify that, when your virtue is weaponized against you, you feel like you're banging your head against the wall. WPKM 101, which is new. I don't recognize that chatter. It says, Taylor, do you think Israel could have told Trump, we will nuke Israel if you don't join us for a conventional war? I don't think he had to say it. I think that's just implied with Israel.
Okay, so let's go there. Thank you, WPKM. We're going there.
Yeah.
Let's take it on. So Israel being behind why we're involved, I don't buy it. I don't think Donald Trump does anything that Donald Trump doesn't want to do that he doesn't think is in our best interest. They may be aligned. And
so it's like there's layers to this, right? There's simplicity of understanding, and then there's depth and nuance of understanding. So Catherine Austin Fitts has some of the best takes on this. She says the Netanyahu cartel is different from the traditional Israel cartel, which is tied in with the British banking cartel, which of course is part of the Vatican cartel. And so Israel, going all the way back to the Balfour Agreement, has a certain ideology that's tied into the banking, and it's a foothold for the British banking in the Middle East for oil, et cetera, et cetera. Netanyahu is bucking against that. He's trying to get sovereignty for Israel. So Israel doesn't have its strings being pulled by MI6 in Britain. And that's why 2 summers ago, there was that huge bunch of protests leading up to October 7th when Netanyahu was put on trial for or he wasn't impeached, he was put on trial, and they had to redo their constitution to fix their Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court in Israel was part of the King's Court in England. It was tied in.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because England is the one who created Israel, and so they kept their hooks in the judicial system because that's where the king had it. So Netanyahu has been fighting his own quote-unquote deep state. And you can go back and listen to Charlie Kirk about this. So Charlie Kirk was no fan of what Netanyahu was doing in Palestine, and he was no fan of any of that stuff, but he understood, like Netanyahu himself was Trumpian in Israel in the fact that he was trying to separate Israel from foreign entanglements himself. I say all that with zero justification for Netanyahu and his behavior and stuff like that in Palestine. He's his own man, but it's not the same issue. Does that make sense? Like, so in order to get rid of the banking cartel, which has their hooks on us and many other countries, you kind of had to work with Israel because they're the inside man. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And of course, there's also, you can't discount the overlay of religious ideologies, both between Islam, but also Judaism and Christianity and, Zion and the new Second Temple. And it just kind of goes on. And I feel like a lot of times with that stuff, you're chasing ghosts because you never know who believes it and who just professes it. Does that make sense? So,
well, and that's what makes the zero-sum game, because of the ideology, right?
You just have to have power. That's it. You want your team to have the power. So
can't we all just get along?
Yeah, right. So that's my take on that. Is it plausible that Netanyahu said, "Hey, we have to strike Iran with or without you"? It's plausible. I mean, Marco Rubio implied that, but when I heard that, the implication I heard, along with the other times this situation was described, was essentially it didn't matter who hit Iran. They could false flag themselves, some other terror group. Because remember, Iran is Shia. A Sunni group could go in there, cause some ruckus, knowing that it would bring hell down on Iran. And so any strike against Iran from any party, internal or external, was going to cause Iran to strike out. And then when you go listen to what Witkoff and Kushner say about the negotiations, like Iran was doing the same thing they've always done. They had no intention of negotiating anything, and they were saying, "Hey, we'll give you the diplomatic win, but you're not going to get anything for real. We're going to do what we did with Barack Obama. Sure, we'll sign the piece of paper. Just make sure it lets us enrich uranium and get a nuclear bomb." You know what I mean? It was like, but you can have your deal just as long as we can have a bomb. And it was like, no, the objective is no bomb. and they had their little Omani interpret or the Omani negotiator that was on the news last Sunday before or Saturday, whenever it was, right before the strike started, and he was like, "Oh, the Iranians have agreed to no bomb." No, they didn't. They didn't agree to no bomb. I mean, that was clear as day.
That's the problem.
So yeah, Khomeini's son named Iran's next supreme leader. Sucks to be him. Yeah, that'll.
Bye.
I saw an SNL skit or some skit, where one guy gets up, boom, dead. Next guy gets up, boom, dead. Next guy gets up. He's like really hesitant. I guess I'm in charge. Boom, dead. Next guy gets up. We surrender. We totally surrender. I just got hired last week. I work at the DMV. They said I'm now supreme leader. I surrender. It's like,
Oh my God.
it was really funny.
Oh, boom. Yeah, for real.
And, anybody who claims to really get everything that's going on in Iran and that whole deal is like, this is just my opinion, but I think it's pretty valid. Like, this is the most highly sensitive, top secret stuff because you're dealing with the end of the world.
Oh, it's Middle Eastern world affairs.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not just little game. This is not just child's play. This affects every nation on the planet.
Yeah.
It affects every piece of our daily existence, from energy to, terror threats, to relations between nations and where one stands. Like, at first, I was so mad that we did this before the midterms. I was like, shit, why now?
I feel like that's the problem. That's why we're at where we're at, is because every president has 6 months to do something, and then he has to start thinking about the midterms, and you can never get it done. And every other country plays off that. How long's Putin been in office? Your whole life.
Like, why? What? Okay, I'm reversing.
How long has she been around? Your whole life. Like I'm not saying your whole life, but decades and decades.
Putin? How old is that guy? Putin?
He's 70 or 80, but I'm saying he's been in power for 25 years.
But he doesn't age.
Well, no. Did you hear him on stage, he and she, talking about living to be 140?
I want some of that.
Yeah, they've got they were caught on a hot mic, she and Putin.
I remember that.
Living, extended lives. So I'm sure they're doing whatever life extension stuff. Yeah, I know. Everybody's probably thinking it's, what's it, the adrenochrome?
Oh, no, I'd rather age gracefully.
Anyways, there is definitely like, but they're around, and every president's like, well, I can't lose the midterms. It's like, we've been marched to hell in this 2-year election cycle.
Okay, so I hit my own reset button and I said, okay, he decided to do it now. For hook or by crook, he's our guy for lots of reasons. Don't love everything that he does, but I don't understand everything he does. But damn, it took cojones, and damn, love him or hate him, it's going to be a dividing line. And look at all these Persians that are like, if you've ever, voted Democrat before, vote Republican, like, get on board. Like,
I know.
So I think that's cool.
Yeah. I really think, like, and then now it's all Save America Act. Actually, I've got a little video. It's a Rob Cunningham video.
Oh, cool.
And it's about Bitcoin, basically. And it's about honest scales and dishonest scales.
And tell our listeners who Robert Cunningham is.
I don't know. It says on here, KUWL show, knowledge, understanding, wisdom, life. So Rob Cunningham is a commentator. I think he has a radio show. I see these videos come up. I'm like, this guy does a good job with these. Like, I aspire to make videos like this. But anyways, this video is about honest weights and measures dealing with the monetary system and Bitcoin. This is what's behind everything, right? If you can understand the banking system and what is required of nation states who participate in it to do, that explains the quote unquote bankers' wars, wars for oil, wars for energy. And now we have a new monetary system that has been introduced that changes the game. It brings us back to honest weights and measures. It's the Bitcoin system, right? And everybody's got an opinion on it, but the way Rob Cunningham explains this is the direction that I do believe in my heart of hearts that Trump is marching towards. He understands this. Not sure if true, but Trump said he won't sign any bill going forward until the Save America Act is passed. Yes. And I am on record saying nothing matters but the elections. Like, I thoroughly believe if we can clean up the elections, we can flush out all these bad politicians who can then turn around and flush out all the policymakers, all the bureaucrats. And Trump's done a ton as far as flushing out bureaucrats and firing people. They're down 300,000 people in the federal government. It's pretty significant. I sure wish he could downsize the DOJ, but there's a lot.
Good time. He's doing a lot. And you can go to the White House website. I don't know what it is, whitehouse.gov or whatever. And it shows you everything that they've done in this past year that he's been in office. And I used to think draining the swamp was domestic, but you can't unless you drain the swamp internationally. So it made me more forgiving of all these actions and energy. Okay, we got more. Digital currency can be deleted with a keystroke.
So Deborah Evren 88 says, you still think you can fix this with the vote? No, I don't. I do not think you can fix it with the vote. I think that we can flush some politicians out. I think that there are some politicians that shouldn't be in. Like when your platform is transgender or something, that doesn't exist. I live in Washington State. I can go ask 99 out of 100 people, and until I actually run into a transgender person or their parent or brother, they don't support it. Even the Democrats, the hardcore Democrats, don't support boys and girls bathrooms. So I know that, like, we would get that voted out. Now, you can't outrun indoctrination, right? What our school system has done to the American populace for the last couple 30, I don't know, since the start, you can't outrun that, right? You can't outrun an uneducated voter base. So no, we can't vote our way out of this. We have to train our families. We have to raise our families, and we have to educate ourselves and our neighbors. That's the only way out of this. But even if we were to have great education, and even if we were to have a great intelligent populace, if you don't fix the vote, then it's even worse. So it's I think you have to fix the vote. And I think some of the really stupid issues, literally the transgender stuff, it flushes itself out instantly. It also flushes out liars, right? Because in a fair election, liars are liars. And politicians lie, yes, but the way that we've had some politicians get through certain scandals, it begs belief that they're depending on a constituency. I've often said one political party knows that you can win elections with ballots, and the other one is focused on chasing voters. There are more Republican voters and conservative voters than there are Democrats. That's a fact. But there's a lot more Democrat ballots. Right? Because they don't focus on voters, they focus on ballots. I mean, you think about just in the last week, they've had probably a dozen different people in different states that were arrested for voting. I think one person voted 70 times. One person voted 5 times in the last election. That's one person creating 5 ballots. That cancels out 5 other electors, right? And that seems, that's small potatoes. That's not small potatoes at scale. And it is at scale. You know what I mean? It is at scale. It's hard to prove an illegal person voted. And when they do find these people that voted, and then they find out they voted 70 times, or like in Washington State, we just found out our driver's license system was hacked. And so one apartment was getting 75 driver's licenses sent to it, and they were registering to vote. They were getting ballots sent to those apartments here in Washington State. That system was just hackable for 6 years. So my driver's license is in that database. Somebody could duplicate my driver's license and get the ballot redirected to their house. Yeah, cheating is their game for sure. Okay, let's watch this little video here. It's a couple minutes long, and I think it's totally worth it, because then we can start talking about weights and measures. Let me see.
All right, I'm going to turn my camera
on this thing changed just a bit. Here we go.
Centralized terror has been exposed.
Oh, hold on. Didn't share quite right. This is a new little add to stage. Okay. Here we go.
Centralized terror has been exposed, documented, confronted, negotiated, and after all, peaceful options were rejected, being addressed for the betterment of Middle East peace. Coalition partners, including the United States, Iranian patriots, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Kuwait, Turkey, and many others, are focused on Middle East peace, economic stability, and the cessation of endless death and terrorism. They have constructed a detailed 175-page rescue, stabilization, sovereign governance, and exit strategy plan to give Iranian people their nation back and then leave as soon as possible. What's most telling is the visceral hatred, hostility, and hypocrisy of the angry, vile critics screeching against opponents of centralized Iranian terror. This cadre of fear and doom are serving as a status quo chorus of irrational lunatics. The top opponent to Middle East peace is the City of London, global headquarters for central banking war profiteets since the 1800s. This crew of howling monkeys is ironically aligned with human traffickers, narco terrorists, fear mongering globalists, and divide, confuse, and conquer specialists who remain dedicated to their keep hell on earth business model going strong for another 500 years. But now the lights are on, motives are clear, people are awakening, the rats are running, and what control freaks truly worship is now too obvious to deny. Who they are speaks so clearly, we can no longer tolerate their lies. Follow the money, actions, and hidden truths, and the power goons and goblins, hoping the world remained asleep, lose. When we unite and stand against godless evil reigning hell on earth, we win. Evil never voluntarily retires. When we stop drinking the cocktail of naivety, ignorance, and cowardice, freedom and abundance for all becomes our destiny. But this is only part of the story. Long before central banks, long before modern geopolitics, humanity was given a warning. Thousands of years ago, simple principle governed civilized society. The rule was not complicated. It was not ideological. It was not political. It was moral. The principle was this: honest weights and measures. Because once a society corrupts its scales, it corrupts everything. The ancient warning was preserved in the book of Proverbs. It reads, "Dishonest scales are an abomination, not inefficient, not unfortunate, not regrettable, an abomination." For centuries, power has quietly flowed to those who control the scales of money, the scales of debt, the scales of information, the scales of war. But something new is emerging. For the first time in human history, technology now allows the scales themselves to be transparent. Honest weights and measures are not just a moral ideal, they are becoming a technological possibility. And when the scales become honest again, systems built on deception cannot survive, because the oldest economic law in civilization is also the simplest. Honest scales build trust, dishonest scales build empires, and every empire built on dishonest scales eventually collapses under its own weight. And now you know the rest of the story.
Ooh, that was good.
Isn't that?
Yeah, that was really good. And the fundamental or foundational truth, like truth, will set you free. Like you have to get back to what's true. If you manipulate things or you get caught up in the noise, you can't settle. There's no weights and measure, right? It's just the smoke monster, like you love to call it.
The smoke monster, yeah.
Yeah. And what's going on, it's just profound. Every time I feel that heaviness inside, it comes from scarcity of resources. That's what it comes down to. Not scarcity of opportunity or scarcity of love or relations. It's resources. And that, like, it's a chokehold,
Yep.
you know? And it's not just our perception of it. It's real.
And what's crazy about it is we don't know any different, right? You know how we use that quote in 1776 Live by T. Andrew Coleman? We're kidding ourselves. We don't know what it's like, the buying power of success, forcing every generation to start over with death and estate taxes and income taxes to punish success. And it's like, you hear that and it's like, we don't even know what it's like to have honest weights and measures, right? A dollar bill when I graduated from high school, let's put it this way, 1 ounce of silver the day I graduated from high school was $4. Just a couple weeks ago, it was $124. How does someone deal with that in one adult lifetime? In 20 years? In 20 years. How do you buy a house? How do you save for anything? It's just more and more dollars. And do you think wages go up with the value of that silver? No. You know what I mean? And it's like that. It's not an honest system, and you can't win. And it's some people do. It's the whole debtors win, savers lose thing. If you're a debtor, then you win. But I saw here, Deborah said digital currency can be deleted with a key. So can your wealth when it's debt owed. You don't own anything. You don't own anything in the dollar system. And by the way, I had a Wells Fargo bank account. After I got arrested for January 6th, they deleted my account with a letter that said, you can't bank here anymore.
Because
what happens when you get debanked? You get sanctioned. You can't. So the idea that I don't want to use digital because it could delete it with a keystroke. It's a lot harder to delete Bitcoin than it is to delete my Wells Fargo account.
Especially Bitcoin in a what is it called? Cold storage that you have on your own hard drive. You
can't delete it. Yeah. Or PayPal. I mean, sure, you could make the whole thing go away, which technically is impossible now because it's decentralized. So you'd have to make all electricity go away altogether, in which case your pile of gold isn't going to do you very good because you're going to go hungry. Because you can't eat the gold. So it's kind of like you can't really win in the scenario where Bitcoin goes away, gold becomes useless and irrelevant, and really we're in Mad Max anyways. You're better off with bullets. You know what I mean? If we can't use Bitcoin, the only other viable currency is bullets. Bullets and carrots. Okay, that's it. Dollar bills, banking system, Wells Fargo.
And what was it in Gone with the Wind? She was pulling up the potatoes. Yeah. As God is my witness, I'll never be hungry again. Are you guys preppers?
What do you mean?
In the household, do you do all the home prepping for, Mad Max times?
You're not supposed to say any of that online.
Oh, never mind.
We would be fine for a period of time.
Okay.
We would be fine for a period of time.
I don't know the rules of what I can and cannot say.
Well, you're not supposed to tell people, I have 5 years of food supply, because then when it's the fan, they're going to come for you. No, we can survive for a period of time. We have certain things, like we have a well, which is great, except we only have about 2 toilet flushes in our reserve tank because it needs electricity to pump it out of the ground. So it's like we'd have to run the generator, and how much fuel do we have? And, you start getting into these little spots where it's like, if we really had to, we live right on the ocean. So we'd be walking across the street with buckets of water, and I'd be putting it through. I've got some stills so I can desalinate water.
Well, that's cool.
But, that would solve our drinking water problem with a lot of difficulty. Could one say that Bitcoin is just another currency like FRNs? No, that is not the case. Bitcoin is not really a currency at all. Bitcoin is an exchange. It's a store of value. It's a seashell. Just like gold is a seashell, right? All money has ever been is seashells, colored rocks, and shiny and colored paper, right?
It's just that
it's just a means of exchange. True money trends to zero. So like 1 golden ounce could buy you a toga in Rome, a nice suit in London, and an Italian custom suit today. Same golden cool. Ounce, right? Golden ounce. Now it can change dollar amounts, right? But the value of the gold is zero. It just holds the value of 1 suit. 1 nice suit, no matter what century we're talking about, going back for 2,000 years, cost approximately 1 gold coin. And then whatever denomination of FRNs or whatever, sure, right now a nice Italian suit's almost $5,000, coincidentally about the price of an ounce of gold. Bitcoin's like that. It's called trending to zero. All other monies trend up. Real money trends to zero. Deflation is natural. Inflation is artificial. So Bitcoin doesn't inflate, it deflates, which is what we want in an honest weight and measure. So it never increases what's there. It just holds value. There's a lot of case studies of communities that have been cut off over the years from the system. And, they have 1,000 ounces of gold circulating, and they build huge cities, and they never increase the money supply, but they increase the wealth and the asset base and the infrastructure of the community without ever adding a single ounce to the economic system. Bitcoin's like that, right? Once it gets to 21 million Bitcoin, that's it. That's all there is. If you can accumulate in the next couple of years one single Bitcoin, fast forward 20 or 30 years, you'll be one of the 21 million richest people in the world. And if not less, because there's a lot of guys that have more than one Bitcoin, right? But it's pretty significant, the ability of Bitcoin. Everybody's always concerned about quantum, and Scott Bessent and others have come out this week and said, we've got quantum encryption. Like, we're not worried about quantum hacking. And remember, you can pay your taxes in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is now added to the Federal Reserve. The United States, the U.S. Federal Reserve is the first one to do that. Other Federal Reserves are probably going to follow in suit, and they're going to have gold and silver and Bitcoin and probably other precious metals in their reserve. So it's not like an exclusive Bitcoin reserve, but they clearly understand Bitcoin it's probably here to stay.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and it is. Remember, all money is a store of energy. Okay, so what is gold? Gold means somebody had enough food that they didn't have to grow food; they could go mine gold. So there was an excess of energy for the human being to go mine the gold and store his energy of the day mining gold in the gold and use it as exchange, right? So all money is a result of excess energy. Seashells have no value other than exchange, but it's a result of having had enough food to go out and look for seashells. And so Bitcoin is the same thing. When you have excess energy, like the United States can create, then you can spin off that excess energy, which otherwise just dissipates into the grid, and you can now store it in a Bitcoin. That's why the Bitcoin miners are running off electricity. When you have excess electricity, more than what you use, you can then store that value in the Bitcoin and transfer it into the future. What would prevent a fractional move on Bitcoin increasing the total amount? It can't. It's designed not to. So it goes out to 8 decimal places. So you've got 21 million decimal places in front and 8 decimal places out, and that's it. So a Satoshi is 0.000000001, Bitcoin. So there is nothing. All other coins. So they talk about, you have Bitcoin and you have shit coins, Ethereum, Dogecoin, all the little stupid coins. Those are all by foundations. Those are all by nonprofits. Those are all by corporations, and they can be fractionalized. They can. Bitcoin can't be divided. It's just a decimal point, and there's only so many decimal points. The code won't allow it for anything else. It can't really be manipulated by the outside. It's a worldwide ledger. It is, in the future, the United States, because Trump, depending on how the Clarity Act goes, we will, like, it was about 5 weeks ago, Walmart announced you can use Bitcoin at the register. So Walmart is now accepting Bitcoin direct. Okay, you do it through their little Walmart wallet or whatever, and it's like, okay, they're not stupid. You know what I mean? Like, they're not
going to do it if it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not real.
So, yeah, it's really, Bitcoin is different, and it's different than all the other coins. I would never encourage anybody to buy any crypto coin. Crypto is a crypt. Bitcoin is not crypto. Bitcoin is wide open. It is a ledger for everyone to see. It is not a crypt. It is a public ledger. All the other ones, they feign at public ledgers. We're going to let you see what we want you to see, like Ethereum, stuff like that.
And it can't be controlled because it's in not the public domain, but it's, what did you just call it? You just said it. It's open source.
Yeah, it's open source. Every computer, every wallet verifies the whole ledger. So even if electricity went down, the moment electricity went back on, the wallet would turn right back on. Like, that's the other thing they built into it. They built into it the potential for power outages. So if power goes out for 1,000 years and we turn it back on, and you turn on a wallet and you have a computer to interface with it, you'll see it. It'll be there. I have another really great video that talks about debt. I'm trying to find it. Give me just a second here. Yeah, I think that we have been intentionally mistaught about Bitcoin by the banks. And you can tell right now how hard they're fighting. What they don't want the exchanges like, Robinhood or the places where you can buy Bitcoin with, they don't want them to pay interest, right? They want you to put your wealth into the banks, and they'll pay you that little fractional interest. They don't want you to.
Because look at how much money has left the banks.
Yeah.
If each one of us has $100,000, let's say, we decide not to deposit it into the banks or buy the CDs or the stock market or whatever, we put it into Bitcoin, it's not in their system anymore. I mean, it's one of the best things you can do to try to get the money out of this fractional cesspool.
Yeah, it's really good. And I'm a huge fan of gold and silver too. Like, I don't think you should be all in with Bitcoin or silver or gold, but you should, those are sound money systems. Like, you should have, in my opinion, being an anti-bank guy. Why? Because they closed my bank account. They closed my bank account. Oh, by the way, I followed up with one of our community members about a stable coin is just a platform. So stablecoin is just a private central bank. That's all that is. And that's the future. They're going to get rid of government central banks and it'll be private central banks, just like we had in the 1800s under Andrew Jackson. Right? Wells Fargo is going to issue their own stablecoin or their own script, just like they used to, based on their ability to cash out. So that decentralizes banking even further to the extent that we use a debt system or a credit system. So that's, or a debt system. Where's my little video? I have a really great video that explains Bitcoin. It explains debt systems versus the fiat system we have, but I don't know where I put the video. I don't know. I may not find it. Anyways, so stablecoin is the equivalent of a central bank currency, right? So a dollar bill is a stablecoin of gold, or was, right? So that's all it is. It interfaces with local currencies is what the stablecoin will do. When they closed your account, were you able to get your money out? Yeah, they gave me like 7 days to get my money out. And then I couldn't open an account at the 5 major banks. So I had to go to a local credit union, which, thank goodness. But here's the thing. All it would have taken was a letter from the government to my local credit union. They would have shut my account down too. It's just that the big banks were all in cahoots. What they were doing was illegal and they knew it, but they did it anyways. And they did it.
Well, that's why Trump's suing. He's suing them for billions of dollars because they debanked him.
And when you listen to Eric Trump, he's like, you could send me $5 million right now and it'll be in my wallet in 3 seconds. Do you think banks want to compete with that? They can't compete with that. 5 p.m. you can't send a wire transfer over the weekend. And what do? They sit on your money and make interest all weekend.
Heck yeah.
And he goes on and on. He's like, I didn't realize, until they debanked the Trumps, they didn't realize they were totally down on crypto. Like Trump in his first term was like, I like the dollar. He still likes the dollar, but not when the dollar is manipulated by corrupt policymakers.
Well, and like you said, he is the CEO of the corporation.
He's the CEO of the corporation.
He is deeply invested in all these systems, even though he's trying to bring us to more, I don't know, what do we want to say, pre-cartel reality? I don't know, but I don't think he's real happy with the Fed. I think he does want it to be in the Treasury. I think we're moving in that direction. So the midterms, let's go back to the midterms. They are important. Voting is important. A lot of people who have been around have gone back and forth on vote, don't vote. What does voting mean? I don't want to be a citizen, blah, blah, blah. We have to vote. If you don't vote, then the possibility, it's like taking your hands off the wheel and just hoping you don't crash.
So there's 2 types of people. There's different types of people that don't vote. There's one type of people that don't vote because they forget about it. It's not important to them. They don't know at all. Right. So they're just literally like the sheeple, you know what I mean? They just, I don't vote. When is the election? Those kind of people, totally unplugged, only watch sports, whatever, play video games. You know what I mean? And then you've got the people that don't vote because they're the Dan Carlin. It's a big club and I am not in it. My vote doesn't matter anyways. It's so diluted. What's one vote? Blah, blah, blah. Now that argument is easily beat by the fact that you have a sitting House of Representative member that they call Six Pack Katie, I think, because she won her United States House congressional seat by 6 votes. So 6 people, their vote mattered. For
It
6 people, their vote matters. Even if you think there was cheating, those 6 people made sure. You know what I mean? Like 6 votes makes a difference. Then you've got people who don't vote because they're of the ilk that believe that by voting that they are consenting to governance and stuff like that. I would say, and this helped me the most on this topic, go listen to the go read or listen to Lysander Spooner gave a talk or wrote an essay years ago called Constitution of No Authority.
You want me to grab it?
Yeah, post it. And that right there, he talks about voting and how people who say, well, voting says that you consent. He's like, not if the only way that you can stop the laws is by voting. You're basically holding the voter hostage to vote, whether they consent or not. And so he's like, voting doesn't prove you consent. In fact, it might even prove that you don't consent because you're trying to change something. So I don't think that voting, compromises your equity or compromises anything like that. I think if anything, it's like, it's all you can do. It's the step you do before you bring out the sword, kind of a thing, or do something else crazy.
I know I posted it in the community, so just give me a second. I'll find it.
I can find it pretty quick. Just on YouTube. Lysander Spooner. I think it's No Treason, a Constitution of No Authority.
Mm-hmm. It's weird. I thought did I pin it?
Lysander Spooner. Here we go.
Here in return for them.
It is every single person I've ever had read this tells me it is phenomenal, and so I really recommend everybody read it. There we go. There it is. It's up on the screen. It's also in the chats. It's on YouTube. It's by Lysander Spooner. No Treason, the Constitution of No Authority. And I think he gave this talk in 1867. And anyways, the principles that he talks about there, it's my belief that anybody who wants to keep the smoke monster in check needs to listen to this and understand the true nature of the Constitution and what it binds us to. It is not set in stone, right? It has become custom. And as such, we want to honor it because it helps society function, but we also want to recognize, like, it's just that. It's customs, and customs can change. And your agreement to it is implied. It's not express.
Yeah. So it's 1776 Live. Let's talk about, I want to share something today.
Okay.
That one of the things we do are trusts, private trusts. And I had created a revocable trust with my husband when my daughter was born. She was like 1 when we did it. And I have now created a new trust going through our trust program. And I feel like I got to clean stuff up. And I'm looking at, all my documents and all my stuff and saying what's out there that I'm not paying attention to.
I want to stop you because I want to share this. I was going to share it earlier and then
go.
Thought. The other thing about debanking, one of our community members was debanked from a small regional bank in Georgia called Truist Bank.
Just last week.
It was about a month ago.
Okay.
Because she went in and I thought she went in to get cash, and I thought it was a substantial amount of cash, and they debanked her because she didn't want to provide the reasons why she was getting the amount of cash. I was unclear on the amount of cash. I assumed it was a large amount. I talked to her. It was $1,000. She went to get $1,000 out of Truist Bank in Georgia.
She didn't want to tell them what it was for.
She didn't want to tell them why. Why would you tell someone why you're getting $1,000? It's walking around money. I'm going to Vegas, right? And they debanked her.
Your business.
They sent her a letter days later that said they didn't want to bank with her and they asked her to move on. Your banking relationships are unilateral, right? Just by asking cash. Kasnoth and Fitch calls that nudging. They're nudging you to go cashless. Right? Which, if we go cashless Bitcoin, it's not a big deal if you're not committing fraud. But yeah, that's interesting. Okay, go back to your So
then I got my estate planning records out because I needed to look at this old trust document and figure out what I needed to do. And it started me down this entire road of thinking about, I'm going to be 63 this year. And I'm like, what else is going on in my life that I'm not even thinking about? And what is it that I need to convey to my daughter, our beneficiary? What does she need to know? And in all of the chaos of what's going on, and here we teach how to create the type of trusts that are in private, whereas this is totally in the public. And I spent a fortune on it, and it's a terrible document. It got me thinking how valuable what we're doing is, and how we can keep going forward. But you take a moment, I'm just sharing with anyone who's listening, take a moment and think about what you have in place that could potentially, if you get hit by a bus, drop dead, you get busy, the world continues to get chaotic around us. Take a minute to look at what you have in place that matters. And do the people who would be left behind know where to find your stuff? Because my family wouldn't even have known where to find everything. And I'm not pleased with myself, because I'd like to believe I've been a better steward for my family, because I'm kind of the bookkeeper, the business person, but I've done a terrible job. I've done an absolutely terrible job of even keeping up with some of the documents I created. So it didn't take me much time. It was less than an hour of finding this and looking at it. And I also found there are documents in here that are really valuable, like a power of attorney for my husband and I. That exists. That's still good. Our wills, we need to look at that. Advanced healthcare directives, life insurance stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that we can be good stewards that doesn't take a whole lot of time to do. And sure, 1776 Live is there to help with the kinds of trusts that people may want to consider having that keep you in the private and that protect your assets. And there are all kinds of other things. And we have a wonderful weekly meeting called Ignite that goes through some of the benefits of that. But I just wanted to mention it because I think that we get so exhausted with the noise of the day, and coming off of COVID and the insanity of that. And I know I've been kind of preoccupied with surviving, and I'm trying to go and shift to thriving. And I just felt the weight of the world come off of me once I just took like less than an hour today to find these documents and to look at what needs to happen to them. And then I ran into Grok. We love Grok. And I said, what's best practices to revoke what is it? It's a revocable trust. It's not an irrevocable trust. It's a revocable trust that doesn't even have any assets left in it. But all the work that we're doing with our new trusts, this could get in the way, because upon our death, it turns into an irrevocable trust. And who knows what kind of shenanigans someone might want to cause, because
the judge is going to sit there and he's going to want to reach into your whole estate.
And that would be a vehicle to be able to do it.
Yep, exactly.
So, yeah, I just wanted to share that.
The Fourth Amendment says the people shall be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and things. And whenever we have a right, we have an obligation. We have an obligation to be secure in our person, our houses, our papers, and our things and effects, right? So, yes, like to exercise our right to privacy, you have to keep those things private. And there is a certain element for functionality, like our private irrevocable trust, we get an EIN number for banking purposes only. What does that allow us to do? It allows us to buy stuff in the system. Like it's, come on. A completely private trust is great for assets that don't require financial maintenance. But if they do, you've got to have currency. And right now the currency of the day is Federal Reserve notes. So you're going to have to bank. The nice thing about the trust is it's not political, right? There's no connection between my trust and myself. I mean, even at the banking level, depending on how you've set up your account, if I would have had my bank account and my business accounts in trust accounts, they wouldn't have been debanked because they would have been disconnected from me, the domestic terrorist. You know what I mean? And you guys,
Seriously?
and you think that's crazy, but has anybody ever heard of Zorro Trust, Epstein's trust? They still did get hundreds of millions of dollars into that trust, and it's unrecovered, and it's been distributed. And we know the name of the trust, and we know whose trust it was. It's that powerful. It's that powerful that it can even survive the Epstein scandal intact. It's pretty amazing trust, and we just don't learn about them. And why would they teach you?
Well, and the nomenclature is that you've got to engage an attorney, because an attorney is the only one who can put a trust together. But that's not going to be in your best interest.
The reality, that's not necessarily the case. In fact, it's the opposite of the original intent. Yeah. The trust the attorneys do will be loyal to the court. They will be subject to the court, and our trusts are subject to court too, but it's our indenture. It's not written by an officer of the court. So
it's only subject to the court upon challenge, and in a situation like I'm saying, right? Like if the revocable trust turned into an irrevocable trust, and then they came after the new trust, that's a doorway.
Yeah. My J6 experience taught me, like, you have to be prepared for this stuff before it happens. When I got arrested, and then all of a sudden I was getting IRS letters, right? Here was my interaction with the IRS right here. Right? That was my interaction with the IRS. And then debanked. Oh, hey, you owe the IRS money, but you can't have a bank account to pay us. Oh, okay. Oh, and by the way, your business, that technically the situation with my business at the time was we were closing one business and opening another. So my business partner opened he filed a new LLC, got a bank account. I was on the old one. I was going to close it and then move over and when that happened, they debanked him. And I was just an employee on paper, right? But they probably knew I was a partner, because the government seems to know everything. And so they debanked him. And he had to, again, reincorporate without me and open up accounts. And basically after that, I was labor, but I started the business. I paid $1 million for the freaking business. Gone just like that. Can't own it. So yeah, the idea that, like, oh, but Bitcoin can be just deleted with the stroke of a key. So can your current assets, and even worse, right? At least with Bitcoin, the stroke of the key, we all lose. With me, I lost. Stroke of the key was just my account. You know what I mean? Like that isn't going to happen with Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes down, it's because there was like an EMP or a solar flare, and we're all back in the Stone Age.
I sincerely believe that part of why this happened, and like your divine gift to all of us in sharing this, it's a message. It's like you've come back from this horrific experience that was so unjust to give us the reality check.
It was the perfect American persecution. It was all done through due process, and it was all, the American people were just like, well, I mean, it is what it is, and it was like,
heck no.
You look back in history and you hear about the gulags, or you hear about the Bastille, or these other infamous prisons where they held political prisoners. And it's like, man, they made it seem so nice this time. They made it to where the people didn't revolt because, it's just a little bit of mold in your cell. It's just a little bit of feces on the ground. It's just solitary confinement for a couple months. You know what I mean? It was like, but it's America. It's better than Cuba. At least you're not in prison in Cuba. And it was like, it doesn't feel that way when I'm in here away from my family. You know what I mean?
No, it's not okay. And I implore everyone listening to this to realize, Trump used to say, I'm what's in between you and them. Yep. But all of these J6ers that went through this, and their willingness to share the experience, they're us. Heed the call. They're not special. They live to tell about it. The ones that did live to tell about it, like, take it very seriously. We are living we're living through a terrible situation in our republic, and hopefully it's going to reverse. Hopefully it's going to get better. You guys got out, by the grace of Donald J. Trump, and I pray that these midterms, if anybody wants a reality check, go watch Bannon's documentary that he did a year before the midterm in Trump's first term.
2018.
Yeah, because we're living through it again. Like, we're on the precipice. If the Republicans, and I think it's a uniparty. I really even hate calling myself a Republican. I don't want to be an independent. I want to be, an American. And if we go through this again and he goes through impeachment, I can't even imagine the insanity that's going to happen. And I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, but I don't want to pretend what happened is not a little thing. I don't want to pretend that we don't need to worry. And there's time. There's a little bit of time right now for everybody to motivate and get involved and figure out where you stand, whether it's Democratic or Republican, whatever.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I was a Democrat a couple of years ago. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. There's good Democrats out there, good Democrats that have America at heart. And, being a Democrat doesn't necessarily mean you're a socialist.
Exactly.
So,
you're not aligned with the left.
It doesn't necessarily mean that. And I do believe there will be a rearrangement of the parties after a couple of election cycles when Democrats, Socialists of America lose. But they might win. That's one of the things I talk about on the podcast in the mornings is, like, the buses are going to be free. They're either going to be free the Mandami way or they're going to be free the Trump way, but they're going to be free. Like social services, stuff like that. Like, it's intolerable what we've gone through and what's been disclosed just in the last couple of months about the financial fraud of the system. It's intolerable to think that Americans don't get benefit. You know what I mean? And that legacy Americans can't get Section 8 when they're down and out. And the fact that you've got people that have, like, they're kicking people out of Section 8 that have been on for 18 years. It's like, and they're not disabled. It's not disabled. It's not orphans. It's not widows. It's working age men in some cases that are in these Section 8 houses for years. It's wild.
Yeah, we got to pay attention. And
I got kicked. So my wife and I were in Section 8 housing for 6 months in college. So we were in a little college town, and it was like everybody wanted to get in Section 8 housing because it was like $38 a month, right? So it was like huge waiting list. It was like 2-year waiting list, and it was full of college kids. None of these kids were going to be in Section 8 housing after college. Okay. And we qualified, and we got on a wait list, and we lived in a different town than the college was in. That was the only reason we got in. I drove to school about 45 minutes, right? And I got kicked out of Section 8 housing because I got a job.
Oh,
it was fine. The job was better, right? And it was,
but
and
still,
to me, it was
did you make enough to move?
Yeah, we did. And we actually worked out because we ended up managing an apartment complex. So it was like, but so we had a place to go that was all, we were working for our stay, but I got a job, and the job was $13 an hour. And this was 2006. So, it was like the equivalent of $18, $19 an hour now, or $20 an hour, but it was too much. It wasn't enough to really have a living, but it was too much to qualify for Section 8, and they booted us out. They changed the rules not long after that to where they wouldn't have booted us out, right? We would have had to make a lot more money. And they might not have even checked. That was the other thing we found out, is they weren't even checking. They weren't even enforcing that. B-Man 1791 says, I told my son that the time that dissent was an dissent was an American way. Wow, no longer. It still is. It still is, but we have to be smarter about how we do it.
Yeah.
Our dissent, in my opinion, our dissent shouldn't be on the streets. Our dissent should be here in chat rooms like this. It should be in our communications. And then the other thing is you should meet constructively. Go meet with people up here locally. After Charlie Kirk died, there was a couple gals that started organizing the Friends of TP USA meetups. And my wife and I spoke at one about 2 weeks ago. I guess it was 2 weeks ago. And, there's about 40 or 50 people that showed up to it. And, it was a moment to get offline, right? To communicate person to person. That's dissent. We were meeting in a tavern. It really reminded me of like the Green Dragon Tavern. Here we're going to talk about the government. But
cool.
we had a sheriff's candidate there. We had another candidate for House of Representatives in the state. And, they were there to actually talk to real people from the real community that gathered together in their local communities to talk. That's real dissent. That's real public assemblies. It is appropriate to picket or protest from time to time, but for the most part, that can be kind of ineffective, mainly because now it's so manufactured, right? Whereas meeting at the tavern, that wasn't manufactured. That was just an invite. There's a difference.
So, we've talked, we're up on our hour, but we've talked about the precinct
committee meetings. Yep.
Committee meetings, and Stern America on March 19th is going to have at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I don't know if I can post. I can't seem to do anything in the chat, but on his Stern American Rumble channel at 11 a.m., it's going to be an open meeting on Rumble. Strongly recommend going. Get involved with them. They're nationwide. It's a great group. They're making tremendous progress. It's not always clear that getting involved with the Republican or the Democratic committee in your neighborhood works. And I have people there that I've gotten in touch with. They're fantastic getting back to you. And if you go to their website, and I'll get that website for everybody, it's worth it, because you'll get someone on the phone that cares, and they're investing their time and energy into all of this, so that we're not just saying, go do something. You don't have direction. Precinct. Okay.
Pray the Rosary Daily, you asked about closing the account. They let me get our money out, but one of our community members, she was a banker for many, many years. That was her career. She worked on the private banking side of Chase Bank. And she said when they, I don't remember what it was. I don't know if it was Patriot Act or one of these banking deals, but they called it bail-ins. Right. So you have bail-outs, which is when the government prints money to pay the banks. And then you have bail-ins, where the banks can basically confiscate the money that they have on deposit. And this is what Greece did. So when Greece went through
our money, you guys.
Yeah. When Greece went through their big banking crisis a decade ago, they did a bail-in. And so you could only take out $500 a day, or maybe it was a small amount. It was $500 a day. And meanwhile, while they locked down people's deposits, they printed money. And so you could do an example. If somebody had like 50 grand in the bank, and they went to the bank every day to pull out $500 cash to go spend on something else, buy gold, buy something that's not going to inflate away. By the time they were done inflating their Greek dollar and with the bail-in, it was like people lost 80% of their wealth, their spending power that they had in their savings accounts.
And did they ever get that back?
No, you don't. And bail-ins are written into law. So if they
they wrote it in Dodd-Frank in 2008 when they wrote it in that it's legal.
I didn't know if it was the Patriot Act or Dodd-Frank that did it, but either way, that is in law. And when they exercise that, your money's locked in the bank. You can only spend so much per day, and then they'll inflate away. It's called bail-ins, and they have done it. They did it in Greece. They did it. They just stole people's savings, said you can only take out so much cash, and then printed away the value of that money. And by the time they were done, your savings account was worth a fraction of what it was before it started. And you had no ability to get the money out. You had no ability to spend it and buy other assets. It was horrible. And, the world just moves on. But yeah, it happens. Okay, so we are over the hour. Any last second things? I want to wrap up by sending you guys out on a raid. So we got to do something.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll just wrap up. So I'm going to send you guys over to.
I put the links in the chat, you guys, for Stern America for that.
It's
March
Governance Stack: How Technocracy Was Built Over 200 Years. So let's see. There you go. Raid is on. So probably a bunch of you guys are going to jump over to that channel. And
it's so crazy when that happens.
Yeah. And we stay here. Let's see. Let me go. I like to go over there and so join. Hey. Hello. Very cool. Yep. Governance Stack: How Technocracy Was Built Over 200 Years by Courtney Turner. So I sent you guys over there if you get a chance to go say hi. Let them know the peasants have arrived.
So do you stay while everyone's in the raid?
People have an option to join.
You're froze.
I'm
Are
froze.
you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you froze. Okay, you're back.
You're froze. I'm not froze. You're froze.
I think we're both back.
I see Carlit's made it over there.
He made it here?
He made it over to Courtney Turner.
Oh, cool.
So very cool. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll be broadcasting again tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hope you guys all join us. Otherwise, we will see everybody else again later.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.